Hello everyone and welcome to Stumbling to Eternity, the podcast where we share stories of faith, joy and all of the mess in between that comes as we walk with Jesus. My name is Rhiannon and welcome to season 3. We are upping our game every season. Last season we had new mics, this season we have our very own jingle. Today I am joined by Becca, who is a student at Highfield, who became a Christian only 18 months ago, and it's been an absolute delight to watch her throw herself into the kingdom. So without further ado, here we go. Becca, hello.
Hello.
It's nice to see you.
It's great to see you too.
Just pretending like I didn't just have a full-on conversation with you before I started that.
No, I have no idea what you're on about.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Busy but good.
Yeah? Good, because you are a student.
I am.
And
yes.
you are about to go into the final term of the year. Right?
Yes. Final term of the year and then 2 semesters left, which is mad.
As in, like, of
So
your
I've got-
whole uni
yeah.
degree? Oh,
Yeah, so I go into 3rd year next year.
Wow.
So then I've already got 2 semesters left.
That's mad.
Someone said that to me the other day and I was really upset about it. I was like, why would you do this?
You feel ready?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, I got like an extra year at uni, realistically. Yeah. So I feel quite prepared and quite like calmed by it. And I'm also watching a lot of my 3rd year friends go through the stress. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to do that next year.
Yeah. Learning from all their mistakes.
It's making my part a lot easier.
Nice. Well, tell us a little bit about who you are. Obviously, I know who you are, but tell us about who you are.
Sure. Well, I'm Becca and I am a Solent student. I do makeup for film, TV and media, which is fun and it's very exciting and it's good to do different things.
I feel like I should mention that one day you came in and what did you come to, like student night or something, and you're like, Rhiannon, look at this eyebrow I made. I was like
yeah, I was hair nutty.
It was weird and like I was very impressed at the same time.
We've made feeling better, we've progressed, we've made a goatee now, so
nice.
We're getting there. Yeah, I don't know, there's not much to know about me really.
Where are you from?
I'm from Portsmouth, so I didn't travel very far.
Yeah, you're like me.
I didn't go very far. So I'm from Portsmouth and I've lived there pretty much my whole life. Well, I'm from like behind the hill, so some people would argue that's not Portsmouth.
Oh, really?
We say Portsmouth.
Okay. Is that where you live now, or where you were born?
So I was born in Paulsgrove. I don't know if you know Paulsgrove. No. I was born there, and then when I went to secondary school, I moved across to Waterlooville. So it's kind of like a little bit.
I know where that is.
Yeah. Some people would argue if you're behind the hill, you're not part of Portsmouth anymore. But we don't say that. We just got into the championship, so I'm going to claim it as mine. Yeah, I'm from Portsmouth. I've lived there my whole life until I come to uni, and then I come to Solent. So Southampton, Solent, and I lived in Southampton for 2 years, and then this year I've lived at home again, and then I don't know what I'm doing next year. We're going to wait and see what God does. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's what I currently do.
So let's just dive straight in. So, will you tell me a little bit about like your upbringing and what that was like for you? Yeah,
sure. I was raised in a non-Christian household. Or just a non-faith household, really. Like, it was, my mum's fairly agnostic. I believe my dad is. My parents are divorced, so my parents got divorced when I was fairly young, which didn't make that much of a difference. Like, it was kind of like just part of life. But yeah, I wasn't really raised in faith, but I've always gone to Catholic schools. So like my primary school was a Roman Catholic school. My secondary school was a Catholic school. I don't know if that was just because they had a better Ofsted rating or if mum liked their morals. I don't know what it was. But I've never really had faith around me. Like I've got a couple like religious auntie and uncles, and that's about it. The only time I ever really learned about God was at school, and even then it was like fairly limited. It wasn't really anything interesting at the time. Like Catholic school I went to was quite forceful with it. Like it was a lot of 3-hour masses.
Wow.
But yes, end of year 3-hour mass was a long service. A long service. But yeah, that's kind of it. I wasn't raised Christian. most people from my life will tell you I was the least likely person to become a Christian.
Why do you say that?
I was not a very well-behaved child. I was not a great teenager either.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, to admit it. I've definitely kind of gone through my life with like a few struggles that not a lot of people have to face, thankfully. And I think going through some of those struggles actually pushed me away from God quite a lot, because I was like, but if God was real, why is this happening to me? Why have I got to do this and no one else does? Or
it's a very valid and common question. And then a lot of Christians even struggle with it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think at one point, it wasn't that I didn't believe in God. I just didn't like God. And I really hated that. Like, I really hated him. I was like, I just can't believe that you would do this to me. Like, I've done nothing wrong. I'm a child. I'm a teenager. And I was just a very angsty person. Like, I really thought the world owed me something that it didn't. So, yeah.
What kind of things, like, you don't feel like you have to share if you don't want to, but what kind of struggles were you facing?
Yeah, it's all quite deep, and that's okay. I'm very comfortable talking about it. But when I was younger, I was actually sexually abused.
Wow. Okay.
Told you, deep.
Yeah.
And it didn't all kind of come out until I told a friend when I was about 12. So it was between the ages of 6 and 8, by a neighbour. And I didn't tell anyone until I was about 12. And then obviously I had to go through like a whole big court case and, you know, this kind of thing that I told one friend in confidence snowballed, and it become like massive. And I had to go through court and just, you know, having to go through this like round of questionings, like it was constant, and it was for almost 2 years.
When you were 12?
Yeah, so from 12 to 14. So 14 is when it got to court. So it was 2 years of literally constant questioning and constant going over statements and things like that, and constantly kind of living like in fear of something's going to happen. Like, it was very scary. And then it all went to court, and I wasn't doing well at 14 anyway. Like, I was already kind of in with the wrong people. I'd already started smoking at that point. I wasn't having a great time with the people I was with. They weren't great influences. I was hanging out with people a lot older than me. I think mentally I thought I was a lot older. So I hung out with people who were older, but unfortunately I hung out with the wrong people who were older. I don't think most great 18-year-olds are hanging out with 14-year-olds. Like, it's not something they do. And they all kind of were weed smokers and drug takers, and I kind of got into that life of it a bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did struggle with kind of drug taking, weed on a regular basis, sneaking out of my house. My poor mum. I put my mum through so much. That poor woman. And yeah, just kind of went through these years of struggling, and then my court case come out, and the person who had done what he'd done actually was found non-guilty. Wow. And that was like really difficult, because it felt like literally someone just telling you, oh, just don't believe you. Like, we just don't believe you. And that was kind of like, I think for such a big part, that's why I didn't tell anyone, because I was like, well, they're not going to believe me. And then to go to court, and I got to court, and like the people, like the prosecutors were so confident in getting convicting him, for him to kind of like, I remember like so vividly, my mum come and picked me up from school, and I was like, what's wrong? What's going on? And she just like obviously said like, he's been found non-guilty, and it was because 2 jurors didn't believe me, basically. 2 jurors voted non-guilty, and that meant the other 10 didn't matter. Like, that was it. So that was, again, really difficult, because it was literally just like being punched in the face and just saying like, we don't believe you. Like, so it was really difficult. But I think it built me up as a person in ways that maybe people shouldn't be built up, but it's done a lot for me. It meant I matured a lot younger than I should have. I think that's probably part of the reason everyone always thinks I'm a lot older than I am now. So yeah, I did really go through it, but I really do feel, whilst those things were awful and not nice to go through, it's really aided me in becoming a better person.
Yeah.
And I think, again, that's part of the reason Jesus has become such a big thing in my life, is because as soon as I switched perspective of saying, why is this bad stuff happening to me, and said it's happened, what good can I make of it, rather than like feeling sorry for myself. I'm over it. It sounds really bad, but I've kind of grown from it, and I never ask for sympathy, and I never call myself a victim and things like that, because I just feel like there's better places for me to put my energy. And
And did that mindset shift come before you met Jesus or after?
I think a bit of both, really. I think I'd come to terms with everything a few years ago, but since coming to Christ, I've found like a forgiveness I've never had before.
Yeah.
And that's incredible, because I don't think I've realised not forgiving has held on to me for so long, and it's like really darkened my heart. And so when I become a Christian, and when I kind of learned about truly forgiving people, I was truly let free. Like, I was like so relieved and so let go of everything. So yeah, things, like I said, I come to terms with it before I was a Christian, but I truly processed it and started forgiving once I found Jesus, and learned that forgiving is sometimes for you just as much as it is for somebody else. So yeah, it's been really good to truly forgive and get it off my chest, really.
Wow. Okay. I want to get more into that a bit later. That is so cool. Beautiful. Is there anything else from your childhood upbringing that you want to share, or shall we move on?
Obviously, besides all that, when I was much younger, I kind of got sober, I suppose you would say. When I was about 15, I met my boyfriend, and he basically refused to be my boyfriend if I didn't stop taking drugs. So I stopped taking drugs, and kind of just got my life back on track. You know, I did leave school with no GCSEs because I didn't focus for 2 years of it. So I left school with no GCSEs, but managed to get myself into college, retake my maths and English, did 3 years at college, and then come to uni. So really kind of almost completely turned my life around, because I genuinely believe if I hadn't gone down a different path when I did, I don't know where I would be right now. I don't think it would be a good place. And praise God, because I truly believe he put me on a separate path, because I don't think I would have done that by myself completely. So yeah, got myself through college, did 3 years at college, and then obviously COVID. She was great. And then kind of come and did my first year at uni, and really changed my perspective on life. And at the time when I first come to uni, my granddad was not very well. He'd started suffering quite badly with vascular dementia, as well as he had hydrocephalus on his brain. So it's like bubble water on the brain.
Oh, wow, okay.
And that's originally what the diagnosis was, and then it kind of, I don't know if it turned into, or they found vascular dementia at the same time. I don't know what was going on. So my first year of uni, I ended up focusing a lot on my very ill granddad, and I love my granddad so much, and he was such an amazing person, and I'm so grateful to him for everything he did for me. But it meant I missed a lot of my first year of uni. So I did fail first year of uni, and that's okay. That October of my first year, I started coming to Highfield.
Yeah, so tell us why. Where did you...
absolutely.
Why did you even think, I want to go to church?
Basically, it was kind of the summer of that year, and I thought I'd killed my granddad off. Like, I really did. Basically, he was already very unwell at this point. He deteriorated quite a lot, and I had a habit, like, I'd take him out, take him on days, and I'd taken him out to Portsmouth History Museum, somewhere he'd been 100 times before. But I took him anyway because it was a nice day out for him, and I just think he needed to be out of the house for a bit. And then 2 days later, he ended up with this like horrific chest infection, ended up getting hospitalised, and I was like, oh my goodness, like I've done this. Like I insisted on taking him out of the house, and I thought I'd given him this chest infection by taking him out of the house. He ended up in hospital where he then caught COVID, and I was really struggling with guilt at that point. I was like, oh my goodness, like what have I done? And I was struggling with, I felt very lonely all of the time. Like, and I had friends. I had a massive friend group in my first year. I had a partner. Like, I've got so much family. Like, it's insane. But there was always just like, no matter what I was doing and no matter where I was, I constantly just felt like a little bit lonely, like a little bit of a hole in the heart.
Yeah.
Something was never quite right. So I spoke to my boyfriend's stepbrother, James, who's a vicar in York. Mm-hmm. Now he's a vicar. He wasn't at the time. He was doing his curacy. And I said to him very secretly, as he went out to the car to load his car, I was like, hey, James. I was like, is there like churches in Southampton I can go to? Like, where should I go? Or just like, you know, I was really struggling with this situation. I was like, I don't know what to do and I think I want to try church.
Why was it that you thought, oh, I want to try church?
I felt very like drawn to it. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I hadn't had, besides James, I hadn't had much exposure to Christians. Yeah. But I did.
Just 3-hour maths when you were a kid.
Yeah, painful 3-hour maths. I don't know is the honest answer. I just felt very much like I would find something in church.
Yeah.
Or maybe I wouldn't. I think it was actually mostly it was a last hope thing. Okay. It was, I got desperate. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what else to do. So I spoke to James and he listed off maybe like 15 churches.
Yeah. Because he used to be in Southampton, right? Yeah,
well, he's from Southampton and he regularly went to St Mary's and a couple other places, and he'd been to Highfield quite a lot, so I was like, I don't know what to do. And he literally just gave me like a list of these churches. None of them I wrote down, none of them I remembered. So it come to, that was like July time, and it took me October till October to actually like grow a pair and go to church. And funnily enough, the only one I could remember was Highfield. Like, I don't know why Highfield stuck in my brain, but Highfield really stuck with me. So I was Googling it, and at the time I remember it was like Fields High, something. I couldn't remember the name of it still. Yeah. I could remember bits of it. So it took me a bit of Googling, and then I found it. And I remember because my first time at Highfield it was actually Halloween. It was the 31st of October. Oh. Which is really weird because I was like a massive Halloween person. So the fact I went to church instead of going out on Halloween was mad in itself. But I come to Highfield and I remember so vividly I was sat like 3 or 4 rows from the front, and Tim was kind of doing his like, welcome everyone, like, if this is your first time at Highfield, it's so nice to have you. I'm thinking to myself, does he know? Like, does he know this is my first time? I'm like, what's happening? And yeah, I kind of sat there by myself, sat there on like the edge of the row. So I was like, I've got a quick escape, like I can leave if necessary. And I remember like they were worship come on and everyone was singing and dancing. I remember so well because I was stood next to Grace, and Grace is Grace, love Grace, but she's so passionate, she's so incredible. But she's so
she will
passionate.
not hold back.
No, not at all. No. And I love that more now than I did then, because I was so like, I was like, okay, what have I what's going on? And everyone was really like, because I'd never grown up or ever seen like people worship in such a way. It was always like, go to like Catholic school, you sit down, you sing your hymns, you leave. Like it's all very quiet and all very like peaceful. Not that Highfield isn't peaceful. It was just a different type of experience. Yeah. So I remember just sitting there. I don't remember what the service was on, but I just was like, I felt like the whole time I was like staring, I was like, people know that I'm not from here. Like they know this isn't new. And I felt so self-conscious, and I kept making eye contact with Mike, and I don't know why. We just kept making really uncomfortable eye contact. He probably doesn't remember, but I do. I was like, okay. Probably because he was the only one wearing like his collar at the time. Yeah. So I was like, I know that he's someone in this church. Yeah. He's not wearing jeans. I feel like this is important. And then Mike come up and he invited us, if he was like, stand up and said, if you need prayer, like, please just come and stand in the middle of the aisle. And I was like, no, that's not me. We won't be doing that anytime soon. But again, I kind of felt very pulled to. I was like, oh, I just really need to grow a pair and just get this done with. So I did. And I never had anyone pray for me. So I was like, okay, I don't know. So I stood in the middle, and Sue. I love Sue so
Sue
much.
Hooper.
Sue, we love
Fantastic.
Sue.
I love that she was the first person to pray for you.
Yeah, and she come and she stood next to me, and she literally just prayed with me. And I was like, look, I don't know. She asked me, like, as you always do, like, what do you need prayer for? What's going on? This, that, and the other. And I was like, oh, I don't know what I need prayer for. I just need something. Like, I need help, please. And she prayed for me, and I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. I didn't have like some miraculous thing happen to me right there and then, but I did feel incredibly peaceful in that moment, and very relaxed and very calm, and kind of all that like anxiety and almost stress about being in church like literally just faded away so quickly.
Wow.
Even more so than when I just walked through the front doors and things felt good.
Yeah.
And from that, I kind of kept coming to church, and then Sue introduced me to Mark, and Mark Povey. Mark introduced me to Alpha. So I started doing Alpha and coming to church. Alpha was amazing. It helped me so many times through, like, there were just certain questions that I didn't want to like bring into a church space, or like I wasn't really willing to like just randomly ask someone at church. So being able to do that freely and comfortably at Alpha really, really helped me. And I had like such a great Alpha table. I had Hemi, I had Connor, I had Ed, I had Will, and I had Kelly. Like, just such great people to be on a table with. And they helped me so much, and Hemi is now one of my closest friends. She's so sweet. She's such an amazing soul. Kelly helps me so much every day. So yeah, it's kind of progressed from there, and I literally continued going to church, and I kind of just come for like the music and the students and like building friendships and stuff like that. But I still wasn't quite understanding when everyone was talking about like, these great encounters with God and great encounters with Jesus. I was like, I don't know what you guys are on about. But it's okay. I'm so glad. And I kind of almost think I started getting like a little bit annoyed. By like December time, I was like, right, this doesn't seem fair. Yeah. They're all having a great time, and I'm like, what's going on, God? What's happening?
Yeah.
But it's probably important to note that at the time I was still coming to Highfield, still coming to church, but I was still living a very worldly life outside. I was still partying, I was still drinking, I was still doing everything I was doing like as a normal thing. Like, I didn't, at no point did I sit there and go, well, I should probably stop doing those things.
Yeah.
So I kind of, for a while, had like a bit of imposter syndrome, because I was kind of one person in church and one person outside of church. Yeah. And I think that's because I didn't want to bring any of my outside life into church, and I didn't want to bring my church life into my outside life. Yeah. I wanted to keep them very separate. So eventually I kind of, like, my friends who I was living with at the time knew I was going to church. But it was just like kind of something I just did. It wasn't anything I'd kind of like implemented into my life. I didn't read the Bible, didn't kind of try and get myself a greater understanding. And I did that from the October to the mid-January, shall we say. Yeah. And then we went on the weekend away, which was great fun. I get so excited about it.
Me too.
And I went on this weekend away, and I wasn't really, do you want me to tell me my testimony? Do you want me to tell me my testimony? Like,
yeah,
now?
Your testimony.
Okay, just text me.
I thought you were asking me if I wanted to tell it. I was like, no.
No, sorry.
Yeah, what happened at the weekend away?
Yeah, sure. So it was the Friday night. The Friday we got there, obviously. And again, I went on this weekend away not expecting much. I was kind of just like there for the vibes, there for the music, there for the friends, kind of there for the weekend or off of uni work, really. Yeah. So I wasn't expecting an awful lot. But the Friday night, I'd fallen asleep in this like bunk bed. I don't know why I always mention the bunk bed, but it feels very relevant.
We were staying in a hostel. It's not a very like normal scene, is it?
No, exactly. Staying in this fairly small hostel bunk bed. And I'd gone to go to sleep, and I was lying down and trying to sleep as you do, and I thought I'd fallen asleep until all of a sudden I could like see myself sleeping in this bunk bed, and I was like, I'm dead. I don't know why, but that was my first thought. I was like, I'm literally dead. I've died. And it really scared me for a minute, because I was like, what is happening? I've never seen myself sleeping in bed. Like,
was it like as in like you felt like you had a vision, that you could see yourself?
Yeah, I felt like it was like fully an outer body experience.
Wow.
I thought I was stood in the room watching myself sleep. It was so strange.
But you knew you were dead somehow.
I felt like I was dead. I thought I was dead because
Yeah.
I was just looking at my body, like
Yeah.
my sleeping body. But I was like, have I died? I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
So I was like, God, I literally said to myself, I said, God, if you're real, this is not fun. This is not cool. You can't kill me on the weekend away. What the heck? Don't do this now. I was like, no. I was like, you can't let these poor girls wake up in the morning to find me. Like, please don't do this. And amazingly, I heard this like great voice come from behind me and literally just say, like, you're fine, you're not dead. And it was, again, very calming voice, like, you're not dead, it's okay, calm down. But all the time you're resisting, I can't come in. And I was like, what? All the time you're resisting, and it kind of just kept saying that, and I was like, I don't know what that means. I'm gonna try and sleep now. And I was like, okay. And I fell asleep. And the next morning I woke up and I was like, guys, I had a mad dream. I remember telling my small group, I was like, yeah, guys, it was kind of insane. And they're all going, it's the Holy Spirit. I was like, yeah, okay. Whatever you say. Went about my normal day. I think we went to the beach. We didn't do much. We just kind of had chill time, morning worship, fine, had lunch, chilled out. And then it come to evening worship, and Sue Hooper. Sue, absolutely love Sue. Yeah. Come up to me and she was like, I feel like you need to stop resisting. And I was like, this is weird. I was like, okay. Okay, fine. She was like, it's like Jesus is like knocking. In fact, he's banging on one side of the door and you're not opening the door. Like he so wants to come into your life and he so wants to be a part of you, but you're not letting him in. So I was like, okay, I know where this is going. I was like, oh, okay. So he was like, okay, let's like recite this prayer. And it was basically just letting Jesus into my life and truly accepting him and saying like, I'm not resisting anymore. Like the door's open, come in. Like I welcome you.
Yeah.
And I felt all this like grief, pain, suffering, anger, and guilt and everything, just so many feelings like literally just like fall off my back. And especially that kind of lonely feeling I'd always had, that hole in my heart was like it felt filled.
Yeah.
I felt so fulfilled and so relaxed and so calm, but also terrified.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know what this means, because I never expected to have that type of encounter. So to have it was just like so weird, because I'd been waiting for months and I was like, it's just not coming, it's okay. And it definitely changed my life from that point on.
Yeah. Like
I was finally a Christian. Like I was going to church, but I wasn't a Christian. And that had changed. And I'd finally understood what everyone was talking about. But I remember standing up and after like a good 10-15 minutes of just sitting there with my eyes closed, like trying to comprehend what was happening, I went over to him and I was like, what are you supposed to do if you're just like really terrified of finding Jesus? And he was like, what do you mean? And I was like, I think I found Jesus, but I don't know what that means. And he went through some Bible stuff for me and he was like, wait, so do you think you found Jesus? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, that's awesome. I was like, I think I need, and at that point I'd finally started getting excited. I was like, yeah, this is great, this is so much fun. I was like, I need to go tell Grace, because Grace had been like such a support for me all the way up to this. So I went up to Grace and I was like, Grace, guess what? And she was like, what? I was like, I think I've just found Jesus. And she just screamed. And everyone was so confused. And I was like, well, now I think I'm going to have to tell everyone.
I remember this moment.
Yeah.
I so do.
Yeah, it was insane. And she would just continue hugging me. And Tib was like, do you mind if I tell people? Because they're really confused. And I was like, yeah, sure. And he just kind of announced that I'd found Jesus. And everyone was so excited for me. And I was so excited. And it was so kind. And I've got this amazing photo of having like this fat group hug.
Yeah. I do remember that. That was so good.
And yeah, from that point on, I knew my life had changed.
Yeah.
And it's been an experience this last year and a bit of what that means. So yeah.
Oh, it's just so amazing. Like, let's just give all the glory to God for that, because that's like how he so beautifully walked with you faithfully and never left you, and was just like faithfully knocking on the door.
Amen.
Like, Becca, come on, I'm not going anywhere. Just keep going. And he so placed the right people in your life at the right time, because he knew exactly where your heart was at and where it was going.
Absolutely.
That's so good.
God is so good.
He is so good. Thank you, Jesus.
Amen.
So then that was just over a year ago. So that was like January of 2023.
Yeah.
So what's happened in your life since then? Because the Becca that I knew when you first came to Highfield, and then the Becca that I knew a year ago, and the Becca now, three very different people.
Three very different Beccas. Yeah, absolutely. I come back from the weekend away, and I think I was still a little bit scared, because I was so excited to share with people this great thing and this great news that I'd learned. But I was also kind of scared because I knew that I would risk judgment and things like that. So I was kind of at like a bit of a crossroads about what I do. But I come back from the weekend away, and I remember Niv was leading. I'd gone up to Niv because he was leading the service, and I was like, Niv, is there any time for testimonies today? Because sometimes we have testimonies and sometimes we don't.
Yep.
And he was like, I can make some. Why? I think if someone's coming up to you asking to share their testimony, it's got to be something fun.
Yeah.
I was like, Niv, and he was like, what? Just tell me what. He's like, what's going on? And he was like, I found Jesus this weekend. And he was like, that's amazing. Of course we have time for testimony. And I got up to, and I'd gotten up, and that kind of like let the wider church family know. I just remember how, because I intentionally avoided a couple of people, because I was like, I'm not going to tell Mark and I'm not going to tell Kelly. I'm going to let them find out up there. So that's what I did. I remember coming off stage, and stage, is that the right word? Platform?
The dais.
Yeah.
That's what we call it.
That's better. That's much better than stage. That sounds a lot better than stage.
It's not a stage.
No.
It's just a slightly higher piece of floor.
Exactly. Kind of like the service kept going. But even then I still had people mid-service coming up to me and hugging me and congratulating me. And it was so much fun. And I'm just so grateful for the people, because I don't think I would have become a Christian without the people, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have been able to become a Christian all by myself. And I'm so grateful that I chose to come to Highfield of all places, and I truly believe God put me in Highfield for that reason.
Yeah.
Because I think if I'd gone to, I don't know obviously, but I think if I'd gone to a couple other churches, I wouldn't have found God the way I have. So yeah, and then Niv basically at that service was like, so are you aware we've got baptisms coming up? I was like, no, when? And then he was like, well, it's the 18th of February, but like if you want to get baptized, we're going to have to like chop and get you on like the baptism.
Like 2 weeks.
Yeah, we need to get like the baptism courses going.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. So ended up like very quickly getting on doing these baptism courses with none other than Sue Hooper. And we literally, I think we did them within like 2 days. Like we did one, we did another one. We did 2 in one day and then another 2 in another day, because I'm pretty sure I'd missed most of the baptism classes at that point.
Yeah.
So yeah, ended up getting baptized very quickly, and that was very, very fun. It's kind of scary. It's kind of terrifying getting baptized.
Yeah. It was a beautiful moment.
Rhiannon was there.
I was there. Was I? I was.
You were
dunking
dunking me, yeah.
That was the same night where Sam got baptized.
Yeah, Sam and Connor.
And Connor. Yeah.
So yeah, it was great group baptism.
Yeah.
It was the first time my family had ever like come to church, and certainly had come to church for me.
Yeah.
And I think it was interesting because they were not so much everyone, but I think my mum and my sister were very concerned that I was being like culted. They were very concerned that I was becoming a part of a cult. Like things were, and I kind of understand that like things had moved quite quickly. Like I'd found Jesus, and then they felt like they didn't have any time to like understand what was going on before. I was like, well, now I'm getting baptized. But you know, my family's great and amazing, so they did come and they were very supportive. And yeah, I got dunked, and that was great. And I kind of felt so like within this Christian bubble, and again, so grateful and so peaceful with my decision, because I think there were a couple people who were like, are you rushing into this? Like, are you rushing in to be baptized? Do you truly know what it means? So there was like some concern, and I was like, no, I truly feel like God is like, this is the right time, this is the right place. Like, he's kind of chucked me into my face. I think he's going to chuck me into this, and just, this is kind of like the official thing that I'm just doing. Like, I know Jesus, I know Jesus' heart, I know he knows mine. This is just the official, like,
it's the symbolism.
declaration.
It is,
yeah,
absolutely.
literally.
And it doesn't mean that you have to have everything sorted out. It's just like it's you declaring that Jesus has changed my life and I'm going to give him mine.
Yeah, exactly. And that's all it was. Not all it was, but that's what it was. And it was great. And even then, kind of go into this water. I don't know how many people listening have been baptized, but you go into this water and you come back out, and it's like, again, like just a total refresh, and you feel like this whole new person, like you're in new skin, and it's such an amazing experience. You also feel a bit wet and cold.
Yeah.
But
the entire room erupts into like...
it's amazing. Especially when you've got 4 people being baptized on one day.
Yeah.
And it's just like one person dunks out, screams, and it's so amazing, and people are so many people are so truly excited that you just know Jesus, even if they don't know you. They're just excited that you now know him.
I've cried at so many baptisms that of people that I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. It's so, and we've got baptisms this weekend, and that's
being baptized.
Yeah, I
so
know.
Excited.
It's gonna be so amazing. So yeah, I just think it's such an amazing thing, and from that, again, kind of things changed. I think inviting people to my baptism made me realise people a lot, if that makes sense. Kind of like, because I just invited everyone. Tim was like, I was like, Tim, I don't know who to invite to my baptism. And he was like, invite anybody you would invite to your wedding. I was like, okay. In items of full disclosure, I didn't do that. I invited like my close circle. So I invited my family, and I invited a couple of my friends, and those friends chose not to come.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It's not for everyone. I wish they had come, and it would have been nice if they did, but they didn't. And I had some friends who weren't that accepting of it, and I think largely, not just to be baptised, but being a Christian in general, I think they saw the change in me, and unfortunately my life no longer aligned with what theirs was.
Yeah.
And that's okay, and I hold no judgment to them, but I was no longer interested in partying and going out and stuff like that. That our friendships kind of dissolved a little bit, and that was really sad.
Yeah.
I had to let go of a lot of friendships that I didn't want to let go of from that time between October to January, that I very intentionally kept a hold of. I think I had to eventually let them go because they weren't any good for me, and I probably wasn't any good for them. They didn't want to know about the good news. I always invited them. I always invited them to church. I always invited them to Alpha because I wanted to share with them like what I had found out. But they weren't. Then they're not in a place. I don't want to say they're never going to be, because I think they might be.
The Lord can do anything.
Yeah, exactly.
With anybody.
But at the time, they weren't ready to learn it or know it. So that did unfortunately mean that those friendships have broken down, and have kind of just almost organically faded away.
Yeah. Because when Jesus becomes the main goal in your life, and everything else then becomes second place. And so...
Yeah, exactly.
So tell me a little bit about your love for the Bible, because that has just come out of like you...
Nowhere.
Yeah, it has. And then... and tell me a few stories of like what that has done.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for a good 6 months after becoming a Christian, I never picked up a Bible.
Yeah.
which is like now kind of insane to think about. And it was the summer that I booked up. So summer last year, I'd started feeling again urged to read the Bible. It's a very hard feeling to describe, but I was like, I feel like I need to like know more about what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I should probably find out what this is really truly about. So I ordered a Bible for Amazon. It didn't turn up, and then I ordered another one. Funny that it didn't turn up for 6 weeks.
Really?
It
Wow.
never showed up. I think that might have been someone playing games. But I had a pocket Bible from James actually, so I'm lying a little bit. I had this little Bible. I started reading that, and it was like so tiny. It was so hard to read, so I ended up ordering one. And I think I started by reading John and parts of the Psalms and kind of just going through different bits, as well as just kind of like the YouVersion Bible app. I would click on like whatever I was feeling at the time, and obviously it gives you like great Bible verses and stuff like that. And started reading my Bible, and I fell in love with it. I fell so deeply head over heels and so on fire for reading the Bible. And I truly believe like a Bible, like the Bible is like a love letter to God's people, and it's so amazing, and it says so many things. And I think when I'm questioning things and when I'm struggling with certain things, I can always turn back to my Bible, and I know it's there in writing. Like, obviously I still turn to my Christian friends, but I so largely turn to what the Bible is telling me.
Yeah.
And the Bible has drawn me to so many things and so many people. And I think one thing that really changed it was not being ashamed of reading my Bible. Yeah. Like, I would read it anywhere now. Whereas before it was like, I'm going to hide in my room and just do it quietly. Like, my mum comes in, there's a pillow over the Bible. I'm like, you're right. So I realised when I got back to uni, I realised I didn't have a lot of time to read my Bible. Like, I didn't have time in the morning because I commute. I leave at like 6 a.m. sometimes. So I didn't have a lot of time to read it. I started taking my Bible to uni with me in the morning so I could read it because so I have to leave early enough that I don't hit rush hour. But that means I get to my uni car park very early. So I started reading it in my car just like before the morning, like before my 9 a.m. basically, and really kind of enjoying it. But then I had a friend of my course text me one day. It was like the first week I'd started bringing my Bible, and she was like, "Where are you?" And I was like, "I'm at college." "Why are you here? You're never awake for a 9 a.m. I was like, "I'm at my car. Come join me if you like," because I wasn't going to stop reading my Bible to like go get a coffee. I was like mid passage. I was like, come meet me at my car. I always park in like roughly the same spot, so I was like, come meet me at my car, and then you can hop in whilst I like read. And she got in, she was like, "What are you reading?" Because it's like this fat book, and it's a journaling one as well, so it's really wide. And she was like, "What are you reading?" And I was like, "Oh, it's my Bible." And she was like, "Why are you reading your Bible?" I was like, "Because I like it." And she kind of started asking these amazing questions, and then said, "Do you mind if I read it with you?" It was very hard to try and read a Bible in a car together. I don't know why I didn't suggest us getting out of the car, but I thought I was like kind of sitting in that moment. And she kind of just asked if we could read through it, and I was like, "Yeah, of course." I think I was on like Genesis 30 or something. It was like a bit of a random chapter. To kind of start on, but I was like midway through, so we just sat and read that, and she was like, "Do you mind if I come and read it with you again?" I was like, "Of course you can." So she come, and then at the time I had a bunch of like little John Gospels, so I gave her one of those. And yeah, we kind of, that whole semester we kept coming together and reading it together. Like, we restarted Genesis and was reading through John together as well, and she just come with so many great questions and conversations, and she would kind of like list questions for me to answer, and I was like, "Can you just give me 5 minutes? I'm gonna find these out for you, or I'm gonna leave them with me and I'll get the answer for you." And yeah, we kind of kept doing that. She's not come back to uni, unfortunately, but we had a great time that semester, and as far as I'm aware, she's kind of got herself a Bible and she's doing it herself. But yeah, that's been great. And again, I just think the Bible has just changed my life in so many ways. God continues to change my life, and I think he changes my life through the Bible, and I think things really changed for me when I stopped relying so heavily on other people for the answers and started turning to the Bible and kind of finding out my answers myself rather than just asking friends. Don't get me wrong, it's great to ask your friends and your peers and other Christians, but being able to kind of find those answers yourself. And so often you'll find God will put those answers somewhere. Like if you've ever felt urged to read something, or I've had it where I'm like, I need to tell someone this verse, and I've not even read the verse. I've no idea what I'm about to do, what I'm about to read. So 90% of the time I'm opening it and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go tell them this and hope it makes some sense, because it makes no sense to me. So yeah, I'm just going to say my favourite Bible verse because it's in my head. So it's Matthew 6:34. Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. And I just think there's something about that verse that at the time really helped me. Especially when I first become a Christian, there was something in that verse that really centered me and really gave me some peace, and to really live day by day and kind of accept the days as they come rather than worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow, what's someone going to say tomorrow, what's tomorrow going to make of me type thing. And I just think it's so amazing that a book written so many thousands of years ago still so categorically and so strongly applies to us today. It does so many amazing things, and I'm so passionate that everyone should try and read the Bible. Even if you're not a Christian, try reading the Bible and get a good understanding of what a Christian should be and is. And it's not always easy being a Christian in a world that isn't built for us anymore, or a society that isn't built for us anymore. So there's a lot of solace and comfort in the Bible.
I want to circle back around to the forgiveness that you talked about at the beginning. How have you managed relationships and all of that forgiveness since knowing Jesus?
Forgiveness is always difficult, I think, especially when somebody's hurt you. It becomes very hard to forgive, because you're like, I don't want to forgive you. Like, I'm hurt by you. You've hurt my feelings, or you've hurt me in a different way. And learning to, I said this to my friend Kira the other day, not the other day, a few months ago, to be fair. I was like, we kind of kept talking, and she was having a really difficult time. And we'd kind of come together and we kept having the same conversation. And I was like, I just think you need to just forgive them. And she was like, but I've done nothing wrong. And I'm like, I know you've done nothing wrong. I'm not asking you to apologise or anything like that. I'm just saying, forgive them. And she was like, I don't want to. And I was like, but if you don't forgive them, it's going to just sit on your heart, and it's always going to be on your head. So if you forgive them, it comes off of your chest. They don't even necessarily need to know you've forgiven them, but let it go. And I think that kind of letting go and forgiving kind of comes hand in hand, is learning to move on with life, and to move on with life and to move on with things is to forgive people.
There's that very classic phrase. It's like, not forgiving somebody is like pouring 2 glasses of water and then putting poison in theirs, but then drinking that one yourself. And so it's like not choosing to hold on to that anger and not forgiving them is not actually necessarily hurting them. It's not doing what you want it to do. It's actually hurting yourself more.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so why would you hold on to that? It doesn't make much sense.
Yeah. When you're holding on to these negative feelings and bad emotions, that is poisoning yourself, because you're making yourself hard, almost like you're turning yourself to stone, because you're choosing not to just let it go, give it away, give it to God. Pray about it, I promise.
But that's the daily struggle of every time you're confronted with a situation, are you going to choose Jesus?
I think that people are more likely to choose the world and to choose their flesh because of the ease of it.
Oh yeah.
It's not easy being a Christian today.
It's really it's really quite difficult.
Yeah.
When Jesus says, if you want to be my disciple, you have to take up your cross and follow me. That's not like an easy thing to do. You have to die a death daily to yourself and be like, my flesh, I acknowledge that right now my flesh wants to do this. My body wants to receive this pleasure. The greed inside of me wants to be satisfied by this and by that. And I want to like give all my time, my energy over to this. And it's a real battle every day to be like, no, that's not the life that Jesus calls me to.
Absolutely.
There's better than that. Preach over.
No, I love your preach. I think you're so right. We live in such a tempting world.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, we do.
I think it's almost important to admit sometimes we fail and sometimes we have to turn back rather than, it's not easy to admit that sometimes we don't succeed in resisting temptation. But there's such a beauty in how we can just turn back to God and just say, please forgive me, I am so sorry.
Yeah.
And he just does. Like, he doesn't have to do that. He could just condemn us and be like, no, you're done. Like, how many chances do you need? But he never does that. And how amazing is that?
Yeah. And
how beautiful is that he has this undying, relentless love for us. Like, it's constant. And how many people can say, I forgive 100% of the time? How many people can say, I never hold on to anything? How many people could say, I've completely let things go and I will never think of them again? Like, God never holds things against us. And as people, we can and we do sometimes. And I just can't accept that. I just think God is so amazing. Like, I just think it's such a beautiful thing and it's such an amazing thing to have a relationship with him and to be, or to have this relationship with somebody where, even when you do mess up, there's no argument. He's not fighting with you. He's saying, like, just come to me, apologise, repent, and you are forgiven. Like, that's it. That's almost like the end of the conversation. Of course, you have to, like, continue trying not to sin again.
But he keeps no record of wrongs.
No, exactly.
It's gone.
Yeah.
Done. Clean slate.
That's amazing,
Start
isn't it?
again.
Exactly. That's so amazing. Praise God. I just think he's so cool.
He is so cool. He's so good.
He is.
Well, this has been an absolute delight. Thank you very much for coming and chatting to me.
I'm so sorry for talking so much.
No, that's good. That's why, that's why I invited you on the podcast. It's good to have people that know how to talk.
You know, I can't be quiet.
No. Amazing. Anything else you want to share before we go?
God loves you. Bye.
Amen.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Becca.
Thanks,
and if anyone listening would like to get in touch, either with Becca or with me, then I'm sure Becca would love to hear from you.
Absolutely. Please contact me.
Yeah. So if you know Becca and you know how to get hold of her, shoot her a message. If you don't know Becca but you know me, come and find me and I'll introduce you to Becca. You can contact the podcast at stumblingtoeternity@gmail.com, or you can follow us on Instagram at stumblingtoeternity, and let us know what you think. Let us know how, if you'd like to get in touch, and we'd love to hear from you. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you again, Becca, for coming. God bless and goodbye.
Bye.